So this is a series called Isolated, for those of you that don't know. It's where we take a series or a section of a series and isolate it from its source material, and we see what we can take away from it. Now this week, a story by the name of Chainsaw Man just finished, for those of you who aren't into manga. Chainsaw Man was like an extremely popular story in the past 2 years that is published in Japan. The genre of the story is called shonen. Shonen, for those of you that don't know, just means teenage boy. It's meant for a teenage boy audience, but that doesn't mean it's exclusive to that. Anyone can really enjoy what these stories are about. And Chainsaw Man specifically is one of the more dark stories that I've read. I don't think there's many series that I can say are as dark as this, but it's not like the dark that's, you know, just dark for the sake of being dark. I feel like the darkness in Chainsaw Man specifically, purpose, and I'm gonna give an example of that in the Isolated series. So the chapters I'll be talking about are chapters 40 to 43. The only real thing you need to understand to really get a grasp for what these chapters are is that our main character just basically was someone who didn't really have a good life. Because of his father's death, he basically just lived a shitty life where he was just working to pay off this debt. And no matter how much he worked for it, he would always be left with just scraps in the end. So he lived a really shitty life, and his whole life, he says early on in this story, all he ever wanted was to hug someone and get food. That's basically this guy's whole mantra for life, at least in the beginning of the story. Obviously, as it progresses, it changes. The story, so chapter actually begins with our main character being asked to go to the movies by this girl he has a crush on, right? To give some background for this main character, he isn't very emotional. He doesn't really understand emotions because that's just the type of person he is. And as a result, he goes to these movies and he doesn't really get what's going on. You know, there's a very sad movie he watches and everyone's crying, but he just doesn't have an expression. And he watches a funny movie where everyone's laughing and just doesn't get it. So many different movies happen and he just doesn't get the point of why people enjoy these movies so much. The girl who he's with tells him, let's just watch one last movie. And in the movie, there's a scene where two characters hug and he just starts crying like crazy. He starts crying like crazy because, like I mentioned earlier, this guy only wanted that. He wanted some sort of real intimacy. And seeing the scene where two people hug, he cries. And it's very off-putting because this character has never cried. You don't see this character cry until this point. And seeing him cry over just a hug should tell you what type of character this guy is. So on his way out, he's reflecting and he's talking to the girl who he went to the movies with. The girl's name is Makimo. On his way out, he's walking and Denji, our main character, is talking to Makimo, this girl who he took on, who asked him to go to the movies. And he asked her if he has a heart. So bear in mind, this is the start. This is only chapter 40. In the next chapter, the same main character is in a booth, those phone booths, because it's raining outside. And another girl is hiding in the phone booth as well because it's raining outside, and they become friends. She asks him to come to the coffee shop. He comes to the coffee shop, even though he doesn't taste food anymore. He drinks coffee, he doesn't taste it. Like, food just tastes like shit to him at this point, which is part of the story, so I don't want to get too much into that. I just want to say this with as little context as possible. He just doesn't like food, and he's eating and drinking these foods with this girl who invited him to the coffee shop, but he's not enjoying it, though he just wants to be friends with someone. He wants this intimacy with someone. So he goes on a whim and does all this stuff. So the girl at the coffee shop is named Reese, and they become friends, and he keeps going there after his day job, which is another part of the story I'll just block out for now. And he starts to really like this girl. And then one day she asks him what's he doing with his life, what does he go to school, blah, blah, blah. And he says he's never been to a school. So they decide to sneak into a school and experience what it was like to be a toddler, I guess. So he's reluctant because he understands it's probably going to bring a lot of problems for him because he never really had a childhood, right? But whatever. He says, fuck it. I can't really, be with this girl and not go when she asks me to go. He goes, and in the school, they fuck around a lot. They sneak in at night, by the way. They draw random shit on the board, 1 + 1 = 2 and shit. And then she writes the word, this is fucking hilarious. She writes the word big ass in English, and this is a Japanese story, right? But he doesn't know what that means. But you, the reader, knows what that means. So it's just small funny things happen. They go swimming and all this other shit. And then she asks him which mouse is better, the mouse in the town or the mouse in the farm. Her explanation is that the country mouse can live in peace, but it doesn't have the food it wants. It will just be in peace, messing around with whatever it can. But in the city, you have an abundance of things, but there's way more danger. And sometimes so the question basically becomes, is a simple life with low risk better than a dangerous life with a lot of abundance that you can get? Denji responds with saying that the country mouse is basically shit, because even if you can live peacefully, you won't live fulfilled. And even if it's dangerous to be the country mouse, you have the capabilities of have the capability of living fulfilled and comfortable. It's just dangerous. And that's where it's a very simple scene, but it says so much about a lot of things. It says a lot about our characters, of course. We get that Denji doesn't really have much to lose. That's his rationale. He actually doesn't have enough to lose, and he has everything to gain by choosing to be the mouse in the town. To him, fulfillment is happiness, and he needs that fulfillment to be happy. Otherwise, there's no point of really living at all. And that's explained in the beginning, where he's going to the movies and sees all these emotions that he just doesn't understand. He just wants to feel that emotion, that, intimacy with someone. And when he sees the hug happen on camera in the film, he gets a very, very emotional experience, very heartbreaking experience, where he cries because that's what he wants. He just wants to be held sincerely, like the character in that movie did. And to him, when you're at the bottom, when you really don't have much left and you're, really, really heartbroken, you don't really have much to lose anymore. You just have things to gain. And that's actually a very dangerous thing. And part of the reason why this answer is so deep is because the main character doesn't realize what he has to lose. He thinks he really has nothing to lose, but he really does. And that's shown later on in this story. But this scene sets up the entire thing. Denji just believes that he has this tunnel vision for what he wants. Thinking that you have nothing to lose is a very problematic mentality to have, because you always have something to lose. There's always lower than where you are. The whole thing that people say, oh, I can't be sad because there's someone that has, more pain or been through worse than me, that is true. But that also means that you could be in a worse position than what you are. So thinking that at any point in your life, I can just gain everything, I just have everything to gain, is ignorant, because you always have something to lose. There's never a point in your life where you really have nothing to lose. And that's why people sometimes make rash decisions, or decisions that, they think will make them happy, but won't really. In the case of our main character here, the main character thinks this intimacy with someone will make him happy. When he gets it later on, or even with this girl over here, it's a temporarily blissful moment, but it's fleeting. It just goes like that. So what he really wants is serenity internally. And that serenity to him comes from external sources. It comes from the food, the intimacy, the companionship, all those things. But all those things really are external sources. And the thing is, with external sources of happiness, can go just like that. Food is fleeting. Sometimes after a while, you try food for so long, or your favorite food for so long, it no longer becomes your favorite food. There's always going to be something more than what you're eating, or more than what you want in this moment. So Denji's ignorance is that he thinks this is what makes him happy. And throughout the story, we understand why it's problematic to think that. And he's never really happy until he finds internal peace, until he finds his own serenity with himself. And when he gets to that point, he'll finally be happy. But in the moment, he's thinking of the country mouse that, can be peaceful, can have what he wants. And he has not much to really eat, versus the danger and, this vigorous life that can reward you so much in the future. It's just to say that the things we value, the things that we think can make us happy, sometimes aren't exactly what we think they are. And sometimes they are. So it's just a matter of understanding what will make you happy, really happy, not, this fleeting, momentary bliss, but real happiness, and grabbing onto that and holding onto it for as long as you can. And that's why in some cases, the country mouse actually has it best, because sometimes you don't need all that to be happy. Sometimes minimalistic lives are what will make someone happy. For those of you that haven't read Chainsaw Man is amazing. It's one of the best stories I've seen in a long time. I just finished the first part, and if anyone's interested in reading it, it's on Shonen Jump magazine, which anyone can read anyway. You can literally just look up Chainsaw Man, read online, and you'll find a bunch of shit. But it's a very emotionally daunting series where you keep getting, thrown from point A to point B, and you keep thinking our main character is going to be happy, and then just like that, it just gets taken away. Even this moment where he sneaks into the school, he's very happy in this moment, but, shit always hits the fan. So Chainsaw Man's a great series if anyone's interested. I do isolated videos every Wednesday, where, again, we take a piece of a story and isolate it from its source material. Next Wednesday, if anyone's interested in following along, I'm going to be doing Monster, episode 49.